Glad to have you all here. I'm very honored and pleased to introduce a very good friend, Joey Levy, who at the same time is a very well-recognized speaker, professional. He's one of our hottest speakers in town. So I'm glad that many of you are connected today to learn about what Joey has to share with you. I'm going to give you a few lines on Joey's background, so you know his background. So Joey has a BA in finance and economics from University of Florida at Gainesville and an MBA from University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. He has helped over 300 families with mindset coaching and to organize their personal finances and affairs. Joey conducts training nationally and internationally, working with companies such as Procter & Gamble, Tetra Pak, Adidas, Red Bull, the Panama Canal, Copa Airlines, among many other companies in the region. Joey recently founded the company Profit Consultants in Panama together with Gabriel Dutari. Joey not only is a friend, he's a member of Executive Forum, and I'm excited to have him here to share his latest topic with the group. So welcome, and welcome, Joey. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Ravi, and thanks to Executive Forums for this opportunity. I've been on the other side of this call, and it's a pleasure to be here and to share with you guys this presentation. So let me just set up so I can annotate here. And if you could just confirm to me, Ravi, that you guys can see my screen.
Perfect, perfect.
Okay, great. So today we're going to talk about how to manage fear and control your mindset in order to prosper in uncertain times. Before we start the webinar, so you can get the most out of your webinar, please ask everybody to not multitask. I know what it's like to be on the other side of this call. You've got your Zoom over here. You've got some document or your email or something you're working on. That does not work. People cannot multitask. Your mind can't focus on two things at once. And we're going to see that your mindset is everything. So my recommendation is focus on this because it's the most important skill that you can develop, the skill of managing and controlling your mind in airplane mode so that you don't get disturbed. Also, something important, if you're taking notes, if you have something you're going to write, raise your hand if you're taking notes. If you're going to take notes, I suggest that what you do right now is write book, what I most want to get out of this is, and then write what you want to get. There's something called cognitive priming, where if you tell your brain that you're looking to solve a problem or for a solution, it will look for it. So during my whole seminar, your brain will look for this down. I guarantee you that at the end, you will be able to solve that or find the answer you're looking for. Also important that you take notes. It's been shown that if you just listen to me, and you only listen to me, in 1 month, you'll only retain 10% of what I'm talking about. If you listen to me and take down 9%, and if you listen to me, take notes and raise your hand and participate. When I say raise your hand, you raise your hand and you ask questions later, that percentage goes up to 90%. So it's important that you participate. And there is a Q&A, and we'll be getting those at the end. It's important that you come into this with a state of mind of curiosity and enjoying this time. There's something called brain plasticity, which means you can literally change your mind. You start creating new neural connections that will change your mind. And we'll see that little state of curiosity and enjoying what you're doing for that to happen. So this time is for you. Take advantage of it. Be curious and enjoy yourselves. Okay? So I want to start out with a little bit about your mindset is everything. His name is Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins is the top life success coach, however you want to call it, in the world by a factor of 100. I mean, there is nobody greater than Tony Robbins. And Tony says something that I'm in 100% agreement, which is success in life is 80% mindset and 20% mechanics. So let's do a little bit of definition of terms. What is mindset? Mindset is your emotional and mental state of mind. And what are mechanics? Mechanics are the things that we normally associate with success, like your level of formal education, where you went to college, let's say, or your MBA, right? How much money you have and resources you have, how much contacts you have in Latin America, what your last name is, right? These are the things that we normally associate with success. But the reality is it your success? So the way that I like to prove people is say, you know, do you know anybody who had all the opportunities, great education, has resources and contacts, and hasn't accomplished a tenth of what they could have? Raise your hand, right? I mean, everybody knows somebody like that, right? And then we go to the flip side and you say, okay, well, let's do it the other way. What about a person who didn't have, but they're super successful? And of course, you know, someone who didn't start out with money, who didn't have all the education, but they had the right mindset and they're super successful. So success comes from your mindset. And if I could like give a summary of this whole webinar in one sentence, it would be feel, and what you feel you live. And now I'm going to refer to an article I wrote a couple years back in Panama, a couple years back relating to our economy. So I have a company that helps about 100 families in Panama organize their personal finances and affairs. So I'm not a bank. I don't have 10,000 customers, 100 families. And these people are more friends than customers. So when a friend comes to your house, what's the first thing you do? Well, you usually say, yeah, how you doing? How's everything going? And I kept hearing over and over and over again, no, the economy's bad. Things are slow. This is terrible, to the point where I got tired of it and wrote an article, which in Spanish for our Spanish speakers would be basta con que la cosa está lenta en Panamá, and in English is basically enough. The economy, you know, enough with this, that the economy is slow. And what I said was, if you start out with a belief that the economy is slow and this is terrible and all that, how are you going to feel? Remember, what you think, you feel. And here you can see I have the emoji of poo-poo, right? You're not going to feel good if you think the economy is slow and it's terrible. And if you get a room full of people, if you sit down with the people in your company and there's 5, 6 people and everybody has this belief and everybody feels that way, what do you think the quality of the strategies, actions, and ideas that you come up with are? They're going to be bad, because that's where you are. That's how you're feeling. And when you go out and take action based on that, with that attitude, and you do it without passion and you're not excited, people smell it. And then when you get bad results, you go, see, the economy's slow. However, if you have a different belief, which is, for example, in every crisis, there's an opportunity. Well, that belief takes you to feel differently, a different emotion. You'll see I have the icon of music. Why? Because that's music to my ear. Wow, there's opportunity everywhere. And if I sit down with those same 5 or 6 people and we all come at it from that perspective, what do you think the quality of the ideas and the actions and the strategies that we're going to have is going to be completely different, because we feel different. And when we go out on the street and we go out with passion and excited, and again, people smell it and we get good results, then you go, see, in every crisis, there's an opportunity. The only difference between these 2 people was their initial belief. And just so you can see that this is not theory, I want to show you companies that were founded in times of crisis, recession, and even the Great Depression. These are the most important companies in the world. And it's like Henry Ford said, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Everything starts here. Okay? So what is your worst enemy? What can derail you? Ironically, it's your own mind. What Tim Ferriss, who we'll see later, calls your monkey mind or your primitive mind. Everybody's got a primitive mind, right? If I were to go back 1,000,000 years and bring caveman and put him next to me, we are exactly physically the same. I mean, I'm better dressed, I'm cleaner, but physically we're the same, and we have the same exact brain. And your brain only has one goal: keep you alive. That's the function of your brain. So what it does to do that is it creates this thing called a comfort zone. And that comfort zone gets activated by anything that represents a threat, danger, pain, and your brain is constantly trying to keep you alive, so it tries to keep you in this comfort zone. And here comes the rub. When you want to grow as an individual, when you want to do something new, when you have a big change or a situation like we're dealing with now, the problem is that you need to get out of your comfort zone so you can transform and change or reach that goal, but your brain doesn't like this. So what it will start to do is it will start to try to keep you in that comfort zone, and it will sabotage you with thought. And it will throw any thought, any lie that it can into your thought process to try to keep you in that comfort zone. So what are examples? You're too young to do this. You're too old to do this. You don't have the skills to do this. You don't have the experience to do this. You don't have the money to do this. You don't have the contacts to do this. You're not the right gender to do this. You can throw a million different things. None of these are which are true. But what's happening is your brain is just trying to keep you in there because it's trying to protect you. And one of the things that I've learned, which is really important that you understand, is it's not the job of your brain to make you happy. The job of your brain is to keep you alive. It's your job to make you happy. Once again, don't ask the tool to do something it's not meant to do. Your brain was designed to keep you alive. It's not going to make you happy. You have to make you happy. And I'm going to give you processes and systems that you can do to do that, but you got to understand that's not the brain function. Another thing the brain is great at doing is visualizing the worst case scenario that can happen and making you feel like it's happening right now. And 99% of the time, it's not happening. And we'll see why that's important in a little bit. Okay? So what's going on right now? The situation that we're all living through is exacerbating the fears we already had. Human beings come to this party with a ton of fears that we already had. So here's a guy named John Astroff. We'll learn a little bit more about him in a minute. He did a Facebook survey of 150,000 people. And here are the fears that we had prior to COVID. Fear of failure, public speaking, lack of ability, not being good enough, rejection, even success, right? Loneliness. You can go on and on and on. So now COVID hits. And now we go into next level fears, what are called primal fears. What if someone I love dies? What if my company goes bankrupt? What if I lose my income? Like, this is next level, right? And what that's doing is it's causing something in your brain called the fear circuit to trip. The fear circuit is in your amygdala, in your brain, and it's a defense mechanism that is automatically activated whenever you fear something or think something can hurt you. Now, I want to talk real quick about fear. Fear is learned, okay? You learn it from your life experiences, your memories, your beliefs, the culture in which you grew up is. Fear is learned. There's only two fears that are not learned. And I'll just tell you just because it's interesting. The first one is when you go like up a building and you're on floor 15 or 20 and you look over the edge and you feel a little thing in your chest. Nobody's got to teach you that. That comes with you. That's innate to you, right? The second thing that you don't have to learn with fear is when there's like a loud noise, like an explosion, like boom, like nobody teaches you that. That comes with you, right? But all other fears are learned. So what happens, and by the way, this exists consciously and subconsciously. So this machine up here is what's called a functional MRI, an fMRI. And what you can see is they split the brain into two parts. The left part is the creative part. That's where imagination is. That's where critical thinking is. That's where, you get your creativity from, right? And the right side is everything related to survival. So what they do is when they put you in this machine, they will show you pictures of things that are designed to cause your fear circuit to trip, right? So for a lot of people, we saw the second greatest fear was talking in public, right? So a lot of people, if they saw this microphone with 500 people, they would start to freak out a little bit and that would trip the fear circuit. Same thing with you saw this dog. For a lot of people, if they saw this dog, I have a friend who's petrified of dogs, he wouldn't know what to do. He'd freak out, right? And that'll trip the fear circuit. Now, just real quick, a parentheses, just so you can see how subjective fear is. You show me a microphone, I love talking in front of people, and I have a boxer dog, so this is a dog who wants to play with me. So you can see how subjective it is. But when you put the person in the MRI and you show them those pictures, what you'll notice is blood flows out of the creative part of the brain and into the survival part of the brain. And this literally shuts down parts of your physiology. There's physiological reactions that happen because of this, in addition to chemicals and all that kind of stuff. And I'll give you an example. If you were to say, for example, be hungry tonight and 11 o'clock at night, you go to your kitchen to get a sandwich. And when you walk in, there's a guy with a knife. What do you think would happen to your hunger? Your hunger gets shut off. The fear circuit gets tripped. Hunger gets shut off. That system gets shut off because you got to make sure that guy doesn't kill you and your family, right? So this has physiological impacts on you, which we're going to see how they affect you. Now, I want to talk real quickly about fear. Fear, we can't be afraid of fear. What's happening is we don't have a good relationship with fear, okay? There's three types of fear, two that are good and one that is bad. The two that are good are the following. The first fear that's good is the fear of doing stuff that can get you killed. So for example, when you go up to that floor 15 or that floor 20 and you look over the edge, not jumping and being scared, that fear is good. It keeps you alive. You don't do something stupid that could get you killed, right? The second fear that's good is the fear that you feel when you're going to get out of your comfort zone to reach a stretch goal, to do something new, to learn a new ability or a skill. Raise your hand if you've ever felt that fear. When I feel that fear, I actually look at it as a sign of, hey, I need to go there. That's where growth is. I'm going there, right? But the third fear, which is the one we're talking about today, and it's the bad one, is the one that paralyzes you and doesn't allow you to be the best version of yourself. And that's what I want to help you with today, okay? So it's really important that you be careful with what you listen to, read, and watch. Please do not, if you're doing this, stop doing it. Do not constantly watch the news, Instagram and WhatsApp and the news 24/7. All you're going to do is trip your fear circuit nonstop. So why do I have a cat here? The reason I have a cat here is, as you know, I have a dog, and I walk my dog. And when I walk my dog, any cat he sees, he wants to kill it. Like, he literally lunges after it, right? So there's a street near my house. I call it the street of like the stray cats, right? Like, there's stray cats everywhere, right? So I'm walking my dog, just doing my thing, and all of a sudden he'll pull me, right? And when he pulls me like that, and the cat senses that my dog is attacking him, what does the cat do? The cat goes like this, like that, right? That's what the cat does. So what's going on in the cat's brain? The fear circuit got tripped, and that releases the chemicals of fear in their brain. The chemicals of fear, of cortisol, the stress chemical, adrenaline. These are the chemicals of fear. So what's interesting is when I pull my dog back and the cat no longer perceives the threat, in 1 second, the cat goes like this and he relaxes. It's amazing. The cat can go from this to this in 1 second. And here's the problem, guys. We are not cats. We see something, we hear something, and we don't just relax 1 second later. We can keep that in our brain for hours and hours and hours. And those chemicals of fear, when you're given in small doses, help you. If you keep them constantly going in your brain, they become toxic. And again, I'll prove this to you. Raise your hand if you've ever gotten into an argument with someone, argument ends, and 4 hours later, you're still arguing with them in your head by yourself. Everybody's done that one, right? I should see all the hands, right? So what happens? The chemicals of fear are being emitted in your head constantly. And like I mentioned before with the sandwich, this affects your physiology and bodily systems. For example, it shuts down that side of the brain. Your imagination gets shut down, motivation, critical thinking, and causes procrastination. This is all happening chemically, right? So if we know this is true, how do we change our mindset? Well, the first thing you got to do is you got to shut off that fear circuit. And I learned this from a guy named John Assaraf. So the way you do that is with breathing and then practicing something called AYA. It's awareness, intention, and action. In Spanish, for the Spanish speakers, it's CIA, conciencia, intención, y acción, okay? So what do? The first thing we do to shut off that fear circuit is we take 6 deep breaths. You're gonna inhale through your nose, exhale through your mouth like you're blowing through a straw. And when you do this in your mind, not out loud, because people will think you're nuts, but in your mind, you inhale a feeling you desire and exhale the feeling you don't desire. So it would be something like this. I inhale calm, I exhale fear. I inhale calm, I exhale anxiety. Whatever the feelings you want are. And you do this 6 times. Now, some people might say, hey, Joey, what are you doing? This is weird, like this cheesy, weird. What are you doing, right? What we're trying to do is we're trying to trick your brain. And it turns out that your brain, while it's really, really advanced and smart, it's kind of dumb and easy to trick. So what we do is when you take these breaths, you're sending a signal that this guy is not scared. Because how do you breathe when you're scared? When you're scared, your heart rate goes up, right? So if I take these 6 breaths real deep and slow, I send a signal that says, hey, this guy can't be in fear mode, because people who are in fear mode don't breathe like that. And I actually cut the circuit. And that's really important. Once you cut the circuit, then you're going to do AYA. And AYA is awareness, intention, and action. So let me explain what awareness is. Awareness is present moment awareness. What is happening right now in this moment? Okay. Remember that the brain is amazing at making you see the worst case scenario, visualizing it, making you feel like it's happening. And normally nothing's happening. Like right now, what's happening? Become aware. I want everybody right now to become aware of where they are. I'm in a room with air conditioning. Everything is fine. Okay. The next thing is intention. And this is really important. I want everyone to write this down. Who do I want to be in this situation? This is the key. When you go into fear mode, you just react. When you have an intent you want to be, it's your responsibility to decide who you want to be. Who do you want to be for your wife or your husband? Who do you want to be for your kids? Who do you want to be for your company, for your coworkers, for your country? Who do you want to be? And you say that to yourself. I want to be an example for my kids and my wife of how to act in an extremely unusual situation. Or I want to be a leader for my company in this situation without precedence for our country, right? You decide who you want to be and then take an action based on what that person would do, and you are that person. Once again, something sets off your fear circuit. You thought it, you read it, you heard it, whatever, it gets tripped. You go ahead and say, okay, I noticed this. I got to break that circuit. 6 breaths. I breathe in calm. I breathe out stress. I breathe in whatever you want. I breathe out whatever you want. Cut the circuit. Awareness. What's going on? Nothing. Really, right now, nothing's going on. Who do I want to be? You decide who you want to be. What would that person do? And do it. And you are that person. Now, I want to just take 1 second of parentheses here because this is really important. I'm going to say something to you, and I want you to write it down and think about it, and it's true. It's going to sound weird, but it's true. The events of your life have no meaning. The events of your life have no meaning. You put the meaning on it with the words you use to describe the event and the way you choose to frame the event in your life. Okay, I'll give you a small example of this, right? Just a couple different examples. I never, ever call this thing a crisis or a national emergency, because all that does is trip my fear circuit, right? What I say, this is an unusual situation without precedent, at least in the last 100 years. Now, you remember what you think you feel. If you say this is a crisis, that sets off a chain reaction of you. If you say this is an unusual situation, you feel different. I'll give you another one I see all the time, right? We're in lockdown. We're in Spanish, we're encerrado. How do you feel when you're in lockdown? Well, you feel like a prisoner, right? I don't say that. I say I'm protected in my home, okay? And we're gonna get into this a little more, but it's really important how you frame things in the words you say, okay? Now, what I just explained to you, you can't do it one time and that's it. Like if you wanna go run a marathon, you just don't go to the park and run a marathon on day one. You gotta go run and practice and build up that muscle. So let me tell you what's going on right now, okay? And this is going on all over the place. There are a ton of people out there whose intellectual muscle is very, very strong. Their business muscle is very, very strong, but their mental muscle is weak and they are falling apart, okay? Their mindset, they are not prepared for this and they are falling apart. So what I do, and I've been doing this for years, is I practice this when I don't even need it. So I'm walking around and all of a sudden I'll just go 6 breaths, Aya, and I'll do it. Why? Because I'm building that muscle for the day I need it. So this is something you need to practice, okay? The next thing I want to do is I want to give you a formula to take control of any situation. And this is a mathematical formula for what suffering is, okay? So here's the definition of suffering. If you're in a situation you don't want to be in and you feel like you can't do anything about it, you will suffer, okay? So this is a mathematical equation. So if we want to change the result, right, we have to change one of the variables, okay? So if you're suffering, and I don't want anybody to suffer, here's how you get out of suffering, okay? First thing you got to do is you got to change your state. You cannot do what I'm about to say when you're in a suffering state of mind. So we already learned what you have to do. 6 deep breaths and perform Aya. And when you get to the action part, I want you to go to number 2, okay? And by the way, you guys are going to get a PDF You're going to get this whole presentation. So don't worry about that. Okay. So the first thing you can do if you want to change this variable is change the situation. So I'll give an example. I helped this family who their kid, I helped them with their personal finances, and their kid wasn't doing well in this school here in Panama because the kid is kind of an active kid, and this is kind of a more strict traditional school, right? So the parents were suffering because it's their kid and it was problems and all that. So we sat down, analyzed everything, did what we had to do, and we changed the kid to another school. Problem solved. Situation you don't want to be in, change the situation, suffering goes away. What happens when you can't change the situation? I can't get rid of COVID, right? So then what I have to do is I have to reframe what the event means to me and my life. Okay? We have to reframe the meaning of the event in our life. And I'm going to give you an example of this. Okay? And once you have that new reframing that shows you how this can be beneficial or positive to your life, then you take action. And when you combine reframing and action, you are empowered. Let me tell you what's going on right now. Tons of people have given their power to the situation. Okay? They've given it to the virus, to the situation. The way you take back your power, the way you take back all of that is by reframing the situation into something beneficial or positive and taking action. And then you will feel in control and can start moving forward. So now I'm going to give you a real life example of this. Okay? When we started this whole thing, I do Zoom meetings with my team. And the first day we were in quarantine, I said to my team, how's everybody doing? And one of my team members raised her hand and said, I'm not okay. I'm doing bad. I'm freaking out. I don't know if I can do this. So I said, okay, why don't you tell me what's going on? So she said, all right, well, I'm here at home working. Now I have to tell you about this woman. She is amazing at her job. Like, she's unbelievable. I love her. The only way to describe her standard is outstanding. Remember that outstanding people a lot of times put a lot of pressure on themselves, right? So when she says I'm home working, it's with the pressure that she has on herself, okay? Says I'm home working. The nana, the woman that helps us with the kids, was sick. I don't know if she has coronavirus, so I sent her home, okay? I've got 2 kids, 5-year-old daughter, 3-year-old daughter, and my husband is in a job where Panama needs him. He works in a distribution of medical equipment and all this stuff. So he's out in the field. He's not with her. So she said, I'm home all by myself with no help. I am working. I'm the teacher of the 5-year-old. I'm the nana of the 3-year-old. I got to cook, clean, I got to do everything. And I'm alone. I am freaking out. Okay. So that's a situation, right? So I said to her, okay, first thing we got to do is let's breathe. Okay. Let's take our 6 breaths, right? Let's go ahead and do intention. I asked her who she wanted to be. She said, no, this is not me. This is not who I want to be. This is not the best version of myself, all of that. I said, okay, let's look at how we can reframe this situation. And she said, please help me because I do not see how this is beneficial for my world. And I said, okay, I think I can help you out with that. I said, listen, I don't know if you know this, but 95 to 97% of all the decisions that you make on a daily basis are made by your subconscious mind. In simple terms, we're all running on autopilot, okay? And just to prove this to you, so you can see how humans don't do what we know we should do, we do what we really believe because we're being run by the subconscious mind. Everybody knows the importance of being healthy, working out, taking care of your body, but only about 10%, I think I'm being kind of generous there, 10% of the people actually do it. Why? Because human beings don't do what we know consciously, we do what we believe subconsciously. So 95 to 97% of your decisions as an adult are made subconsciously. Then I said to her, look, I don't know if you know this, but 90% of your subconscious is programmed from the time you're born all the way to you're about 8 or 9 years old, depending upon the study you want to look at. So what does that mean? From 0 to 8 or 9 is when you program the subconscious that then becomes the basis for 95 to 97% of decisions that you're going to take on autopilot. So I said, let me ask you a question. What was your day-to-day like before all this happened? And she said, well, like anybody, you wake up in the morning, you're, you know, the run around with the kids, get them ready for school. I drive to work. I do, you know, have my day at work. I drive home. Of course, there's traffic. Then you come back again, another run around. Did the daughter eat dinner? You know, do the homework, get them dressed, put them to bed. And she looks at me and she goes, wow, you know, I really don't spend as much time with my kids as I'd like to. And I said, well, now you're going to spend more time with them. But that's not what I want you to focus on. I want you to focus on something maybe you hadn't thought of, which is when you were at work, someone else was programming, because your kids are 5 and 3, someone else was programming their subconscious. And it's not you. It was the nana, the teachers, the adults at the school, but it wasn't you. Now look how interesting this is. Now that they're with you, you have the opportunity to be the one who programs their subconscious mind, which will determine how they act as adults 95 to 97% of the time. This is an amazing opportunity. Let me give you a real example of this. So I was talking to a buddy of mine about this situation, and he said, hey, talking about unusual situations, the invasion of Panama in 1989, when the United States invaded Panama. And I said, okay, tell me your story. And he said, well, I remember we were in our house and my neighbor came over, and I go, no. That's what you remember consciously, subconsciously. He goes, Joey, I don't know what you're talking about. I said, okay, let me ask you some questions. What was the energy in your house? What was the feeling? What words did your parent use? Was it a crisis, right? Was it a national emergency? What did your parents say? How did you feel? And he goes, wow, I never thought of it that way. But going back, I remember my mom and my dad sat us down. I was 10 years old, sat us down and said, hey guys, this is what completely calm. This is what's happening. This is what we're doing. Obviously, we're going to have to make some adjustments. Everything is fine. We're together. Everything gets resolved and solved, and everything will be okay. Okay? So I said, hey, can I ask you a question, man? And he goes, sure. I go, what do you do now as an adult when you run into a problem, an obstacle, you know, something in your life, personal, professional? He goes, Joe, you know, I never thought of it that way, but I have a voice in my head, subconscious, that says somehow I'll figure it out. Everything's going to be okay. And I said to him, do you think that's coincidence? So I turned to her and I said, hey, see this guy? He got programmed. He saw how people reacted in that situation, and that programmed him. You now have the opportunity to program your girls. Your girls are not going to remember coronavirus. They're 5 and 3. But subconsciously, they will remember that their mother was able to handle it in a certain way, use certain words. Your kids are picking up everything from you. When I told, and I said, by the way, I want to tell you something. That is worth 15 college degrees from the best universities in the world. I have friends of mine that literally went to the best universities in the world, and they are collapsing mentally. So I said, you have the opportunity to give your kids, you know, a life lesson that will impact their future more than anything. And you can do that. When I said that to her, she literally transformed. And when I saw her transform and she saw how this was good for her and beneficial, then I said, now what are you going to do about it? And then came out that superstar. Boom, boom, boom. I'm going to do this, organize myself. Bah, 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 bah. She just went crazy, right? So this woman, right, completely turned around, became empowered. And every single day I do that phone call. How you doing? And she's the first one. This is what's going on. This is how we're handling. She knows that they're watching and listening, right? And she is completely a different person. It doesn't mean there's not problems and obstacles. Of course there are. But she's reframed it as something good, taken action, and she's empowered. And so can you do this, okay? So something else important is, so there's something called the reticular activating system, or the RAS. This is kind of cool. So your brain can't handle so much stimulus. So what it does is it blocks out what it doesn't need to focus on what it wants, right? So if this were a live seminar, what I would do is stop the seminar and say, who hears the fan of the projector? Who hears the air conditioning? Like right now in your room, if you listen, if you don't have headphones, maybe you can hear the air conditioning, but you didn't hear it before. So why didn't you hear it before? Because your brain says, that's not important information. I'm going to block it out because I want to listen to Joey, right? It's like kind of like an antenna for your brain, right? So let me give you a real simple example of this, just so you can see how this works in real life. When you're not looking to buy a new car, you don't see car ads. But the day you want to buy a new car, all of a sudden you see car ads everywhere, even the car you want to buy all over the place, right? Now, is it that magically the car manufacturers knew that Joey Levy wanted to buy a car and they announced that, you know, they published an ad? No, of course not. It's always there. My brain just blocks it out. And this is the importance of focusing on the framing you've given to a situation. If you walk out of your house and you think everything is terrible and horrible and it's a crisis, then what's going to happen? You're not going to see all the opportunities that are out there. Not because they're not out there. It's because you got blinders on. Your antenna is not up. However, if you walk out saying, hey, this is an opportunity, then you will perceive them. Your antenna is up and you will see them. And I want to talk a little bit about this thing called the law of attraction. If people have heard about it, they say, oh, if you think of something, it will appear. That doesn't work that way. That would be amazing, but it doesn't work that way. What happens is if you think of something, if you're thinking of something, the antenna goes up and you perceive what was already out there. It's not that it gets created. You're just now more open to it, so you see it. And this is important. There's a saying that I didn't know how to change in English to Spanish, but I'll do my best. This is the importance of words. There's something here when you say to someone, hey, how you doing? And in Spanish, they go, en la lucha, which means roughly translate in the struggle, in the battle, right? Hey, man, life isn't a struggle and a battle. But if you go out and say it's a struggle and a battle, and that's your mindset, and you walk out, you know what you're going to see everywhere? Struggle and battle, because that's what your antenna is looking for, okay? So the question I have for you, and the question you need to ask yourself, are what thoughts and beliefs are holding you back right now, right? So I'm going to give you some examples of these, and I can't go through all of them because I want to leave time for questions and answers, but I'll give you 2 of them, okay? So number 1, I do productivity, mindset and productivity boot camps. And I have a good friend of mine who's got a very successful business. And I've told him over the last 2 years, I've invited him to my boot camp like 10 times. And every time the guy says, no, he goes, Joey, I'm just not technological like you, right? Okay. First of all, I don't know what that means, but whatever. He doesn't want to take the course, don't take the course. Well, now when coronavirus happens, we all go home and now we all have to become experts in technology. So I call this guy, we get on a Zoom, and when I get on the phone with the guy, on the Zoom with the guy was like, there's no other way to say it. He was like completely defeated. He's wearing like an old t-shirt. He's disheveled. He looked terrible. So I go, dude, what's going on? And he goes, I don't know what to do. I'm not technological and I don't know how to handle this and I can't do this. I go, stop. I'm stopping you right now. I'm not letting this happen. Okay. I said, I'm going to ask you 2 questions and then we're going to move forward. Question number 1, you have a business that you've had for 20 years. Successful, profitable. How many problems have you had in the last 20 years in your business? And he goes, oh my God, Joey, 1 million. I mean, I can't. I go, what do you do every time you got a problem? He goes, I figure it out. I solve it. I go, okay, next question. You had cancer, right? Because this guy had cancer. And he goes, yeah. And I go, you beat it, right? And he goes, yeah. I go, what was your first thought when they told you had cancer? He said, no, I can't die. My family, my kids, my everything. I go, let me see if I get this straight. You have a business been open for 20 years, very successful, very profitable. You've been through 1 million problems and obstacles. You've gotten through everything. You always figure it out. You beat cancer and you can't learn how to use Zoom? And this was at the very beginning of this thing. And the guy just looked at me. I like shook him, right? And I went through how his beliefs, I said, listen, if that's what you think, you're going to feel like shit. And then when you have a little problem and you can't work it, you're going to give up and you go, oh, I'm not technological. But if you believe, hey, I'm a really smart guy who's been able to do everything I've ever wanted to do in life, then you're going to feel different. Then you're going to attack any little problem with the same intensity that you did any other problem, and you'll see that you can do it and you will be able to do it. It's all up here. Funny story. I got on a call with this guy a couple weeks ago and I said, hey, let's get together. And I said, I'll send you. He goes, no, I'll send you the link. I go, you're going to send me the link? He goes, yeah, dude, I just leaned into this and I love it now. I'm getting into CRMs and so now the guy's all in it, right? All it was reframing. Okay, I'm going to give you one more. I have to. This is the power of words, okay? This can be if you've got little kids, if you have kids, little kids, think of this, or even when you have to do something at work or whatever, okay? How do you feel when you have to do something? I have to take my kid to soccer practice, just an example, right? You feel obligated. You feel forced to do it. And when you feel forced to do something, you don't feel good. And then you don't do it with a good attitude, right? What if we add 2 little words? I have the opportunity to take my kid to soccer practice. Then your brain says, whoa, how do I have the opportunity? And I'm going to take advantage to tell you a statistic that the first time I heard it, it blew my mind. And it's really important for people with little kids. 80% of the time you'll ever spend with your children in their entire lives is in the first 20% of their lives. So if a person is born and lives till 90, let's say, 20% of that is 18 years. So from 0 to 18 is 80% of the time you will ever spend with that human being in their entire lifetime. What happens when they're 18? Oh, the girlfriend, the boyfriend, college, the beach, I'm going with my friends, they're gone, which is normal, right? So 80% of the time that you're going to be with that person in their whole life is in the first 20% of their lives. Okay, so let's go back to the example. 2 people have to take their kid to soccer, right? First one says, I have to take my kid to soccer. Gets in the car, driving, their goal, right? They're focused on getting to the place. I got to get out of this. I got to finish it. I'm obligated to do this. I don't want to do it. I got to do it. Okay, they're focused on that. Of course, when you're focused on that, there'll be traffic and everything just to add, it's the reticular activating system. Okay. Now the other person says, I have the opportunity. And they go, wow, man, how much time do I actually spend with that little person back there? Like for real, like I go to work, everybody's in their thing. How much physical time do I spend with that person? And by the way, they're not watching their iPad. They're not watching TV. I'm in close quarters with this guy and I have an opportunity to talk to them. You know what? I hope there's traffic so we can talk and be together. What a beautiful moment. Same exact people living the same exact experience, but because their belief, their initial thought is different, they live it in a completely different way. What you think, you feel. What you feel, you live. Okay? So what I'm about to explain to you is one of the most important things I've ever learned in my life. You have to decide if you're interested or committed to managing fear and controlling your mindset. You have to make a decision. Let me explain the difference between the two. Okay? When you're interested in doing, you do it when you do something when it's convenient. You do it when it's easy. You always have an excuse why you can't do it. And your past determines your actions. Because someone did something to you 10 years ago, you're still the victim, right? You tell yourself, let's break the word rationalize. Everybody knows the word rationalize. Let's break it into 2 words. You tell yourself rational lies about why you don't do what you know you're supposed to do, and you believe that bullshit. And your favorite word is I should, but you never do. Now, let's take a look at a person who's committed. A person who's committed says, I'll do whatever it takes. They think of their why, their purpose. When something is important to you, you do it. You find a purpose that motivates you because in spite of fear and discomfort, you take action. 0 excuses. My past doesn't matter. I must do this. Now, I want to show you guys, everybody on this call, that everybody here has already done this. You just probably never thought of it this way. Okay? So here's what we're going to do. I want everybody to think right now of something that was really, really important to you. Okay? It was really, really important for you to accomplish this. And you had to work super, super hard to do it. Okay? You really had to work hard to do it. And you did it. Raise your hand if you can think of something like that. Okay? Perfect. I will bet you $1,000 that you were committed to whatever it was you were committed. Let's do it the other way around. Now I want to do it the other way and say, think of something that was really, really important to you, super important to you, and you haven't done it. You haven't fixed it. It's not resolved. You haven't closed the gap. It still exists. You have not done it. Everybody got one? I'll bet you $1,000 you were just interested. The only difference between people who are successful and not successful, and I'm not talking about work and money, I'm talking about life. The only difference between successful people and people who are not successful is whether you're committed to doing something or interested. So who are you going to be? Decide, because what you decide will determine your destiny. Okay? So how do we apply this in real life to become that best version of ourselves? Okay? First thing you want to do is practice a morning routine. If you don't know who this guy is, this is Tim Ferriss. He has the Tim Ferriss Show. It's like the #1 podcast on iTunes. I have learned more from Tim Ferriss and listening to him. What he does is he interviews top performers. And these are long form interviews, 3-4 hours. It's amazing. And he gets into how they work, what they think, what they do. I have learned more from listening to Tim Ferriss than in all of my formal education times 10. This is unbelievable. So what do top performers do? They have a morning routine, which is a series of pre-programmed steps that make you the best version of you. Remember we talked about the chemicals of fear? Well, this will fill you with the chemicals of happiness. And I want to say something. If you've never done a morning routine, you don't go from 0 to 100 in one day. Start slow and do what's called habit stacking. Habit stacking is where you do one thing for a little bit of time, then you add another little thing, a little bit of time and another until eventually you have a system. So what do the most successful people do? And by the way, 80% of all top performers have a morning routine. Number one, they practice gratitude. Gratitude as a practice. If you do nothing, if you want to do just one thing to have a morning routine, wake up in the morning, open your eyes, take a couple deep breaths, close your eyes, and think of all the things that you are grateful for. Think of all the things that you're lucky to have. Instead of thinking about all the problems and stress and things you don't have, think about what you do have, because you are blessed and we are lucky. And if you do that every morning, just that alone will change your world. The second thing they do is they practice mindfulness or some type of meditation. So what is this all about? Meditation is the act of separating yourself away from your thoughts so that you can observe them and you can understand that you are not your thoughts. Remember what I said at the beginning? It's not the job of your brain to make you happy. The job of your brain is to keep you alive. So your brain will produce thoughts whose purpose is not to make you happy, but to keep you in that comfort zone. So you have to have the ability to separate away and say, I choose not to associate with that thought, or that thought's not going to take me to a good place. And there's other benefits of mindfulness, but that's a huge part of it. The other thing they do is they do exercise, okay? Exercise is important physically for your body so you can be that best version of yourself long-term, because you got to take care of your physical body, releases stress, and it also puts these chemicals of happiness into your system, and I'll show you that in a second. They're also constant learners. They're constantly reading something, investigating something, taking a course. It's really important to do that. And finally, they plan and visualize their future. They look into that future. They see where they want to go. That's the reticular activating system. They're looking and shooting towards something, okay? So this is my morning routine. I don't have enough time, unfortunately, because we only have an hour, so we could have the questions. We only have 45 minutes, and I think I'm almost there. But I wanted to just show you the chemicals that go into your brain. Dopamine, endorphins, oxytocin, serotonin, all of these things come into your brain. And you have a fundamental decision you got to make. And I'm going to say this over and over again. Who are you going to be every day? If you wake up and make the choice to look at your phone, you're not going to be the same person as you wake up and think about how grateful you are and meditate and work out and learn. You're going to be a different person. Who are you going to be for your spouse, for your kids, for your company, for your coworkers, for your country? Who are you going to be? These people live different worlds. If you wake up and you're looking at your phone first thing in the morning, I'll tell you what you're going to get full of every day. Stress, problems, and shit. That's all that's in your phone when you wake up. Instead, make a choice. Decide who you want to be. Think of what you're grateful for. Put yourself in the right place. Step number 2, trust this process. As I said before, you are not going to beat the monkey mind 1,000,000 years of programming if you don't have a system, right? So what do? Deactivate your fear circuit with the 6 deep breaths and Aya. Reframe and take action so you can empower yourself. And if you get frustrated, which will happen, this is good. This means you're going outside of your comfort zone. Your mental muscle is growing. So if you have thoughts of frustration, this isn't working, I don't like this, that's your monkey mind giving you those thoughts to sabotage you. Don't listen to it. Keep going. You're doing great. Once again, who are you going to be? You're going to be this person, or are you going to be this person? And understand that your state of mind determines the quality of your decisions, and your decisions determine your destiny. Every single person on this call is the product of every decision you've ever made up to this point. And you will become the product of every decision that you make from this point. Who are you going to be? Decide. Number 3, do not do this alone. Share this with your family or coworkers, form masterminds, friends, colleagues. You guys are in executive forums. You understand the value of that. Speak to a coach, a specialist. I don't care how you do it, but don't do it on your own. And so whenever you're looking to do this with a group or with a person, you're looking for 4 things. I call it WICA: wisdom, inspiration, challenge, and accountability. So wisdom and inspiration is all this stuff about reframing and what does this mean to my life and all that kind of stuff. And that's great. But where I see a lot of people fall down is on the challenge and accountability. So challenge is to push yourself a little bit further than you think you can go. When I get done with someone and we talk through things and then we have a session, I say, okay, what are you going to do for the next time we meet? They always bring themselves a little down. Why? Because the monkey mind kicks in. You know, they push themselves a little down. Well, I don't have your monkey mind. And so I can see that best version of you. So it's my job to push you a little further. And then finally, accountability. Accountability is following up and making sure you do it. Because if you don't do it, then all this is a bunch of talk, right? So it's really important to have some sort of an accountability partner, okay? It takes about 60 to 90 days, literally, it's called neuroplasticity, to make those new connections so you can change your mindset. Now, I want to mention one thing. It's really important that you understand the person that you speak with the most in the world is yourself. And that voice can sometimes be really hard, okay? Be nice to yourself, be kind, be patient. Change happens slowly. If you want to make a change and you make a mistake, don't beat yourself up. You reframe it and say, wow, this is an opportunity for me to learn how I can do better next time. Reframe that, because you're not going to go forward if you're beating yourself up and you're hard on yourself. And a lot of times people do that. And finally, anyone can do this. I'm not special. All I did was I found a process and I had a really important why, a really important reason why I wanted to do this. Okay. If your why is big enough, you can do anything. It's never going to be about discipline and self-control. That is a fallacy. I want to explain this. I'm going to give one quick example, because a lot of times people think this is about discipline. I don't have the discipline. That's not true. I'm going to use a simple example. Imagine a woman who's addicted to smoking cigarettes. The lady is addicted to smoking cigarettes. You give her, you know, the gum that they use, the nicotine gum, the patches, hypnosis. This lady can't stop smoking. Okay, she gets pregnant. What happens? She stops smoking. Why? Because her why, her baby inside, is more important to her than wanting to smoke. It's never a question of self-control and discipline. It's always a question of motivation. If your why is big enough, you will do it. And if you have a process and a why, you can achieve anything. Okay? So I just want to say one final thing. We have another seminar that I've spoken to executive forums about called The Path Back to Profitability. And I just want to mention something that talks about how to be profitable, but it more talks about mindset. There are 3 mindsets, and this is an executive forums. We are business owners, right? So I want to talk 1 second about this. More than anything, what will determine your destiny right now is your mindset. And I'm seeing 3 mindsets. One is a mindset of fear and panic. If you are having fear and panic right now, I'm going to tell you what's going to happen with your business. You are going to close. And the reason you're going to close is because you don't take good decisions when you are in fear and panic mode. The other one is status quo or comfort zone. That's where you're kind of minimizing the situation. Oh, it's not as big a deal. Oh, we're going to have to make some changes. If that's what you're doing, you will just subsist and survive. And this will be a tough couple of years for you. But if you've got the mindset of redesigning and restructuring, transformation, adaptation, you will grow, because every single one of you in a few years from now will look back, and you will look back at this moment and you will tell a story. And you got to ask yourself what that story is going to be. If your story is fear and panic, your business will close, you will fail, you'll feel guilt, you'll have losses, probably unrecoverable losses, and you'll probably have to start over. If you're in subsist mode, then what's going to happen is you're going to be living constant stress with remorse. You're going to feel stuck. You're going to have constant financial problems, and it will affect your health and your relationships. But if you can take on mindset, a redesign, restructure, if you can adopt all these things that I talked about, you will grow, you will feel proud, confident, you will have financial freedom, you'll feel fulfilled, and more importantly, you will be empowered. You'll be empowered because you know it doesn't matter what happens, you know how to manage these situations and you can figure it out and grow and prosper. But to do that, you got to decide and commit to doing this right now, to doing these things that are probably uncomfortable for you, but you know that if you do them, that's where it will take you. Okay? So we're in the end of the presentation formally, and what we questions and answers.
Thank you, Joey. It was great. Love the energy, love the concept. Many great things as a takeaway. I think there's a question here.
Sure.
Are there some good daily, weekly awareness exercises we can do to have a quick self-check in our mindset and beliefs, as we will not be constantly be aware of how negative we actually are being?
Okay, so where's that question? I just want to read it.
It's in the chat, in the chat box. It's one of the last.
Okay, say it again because I can't find it. What's the question?
Okay, question from a member. Are there some good daily or weekly awareness exercises we can do to have a quick self-check self-check-in in our mindset and beliefs?
Yeah, so the first thing you can do to develop awareness is take up some sort of mindfulness practice or meditation practice, because that's all about present moment awareness, right? So you can do that. So if you've never done that, that's actually something you can do. There's a really good apps out there. There's one called Headspace. There's one called Calm. And Headspace starts out with like little 10-minute meditation. So if you want to develop that muscle, you can do that. The other thing you can do is also this AYA, right? Awareness, intention, action. Just simply remind yourself, if you want to set alarms, if you have for example, an Apple Watch, set the alarm to go off every 4 or 5, every 3 hours or 4 hours. And when it goes off, just take a second and look around. What's going on right now? That simple task of just putting a little alarm and breathing and looking around will bring you into awareness. Okay? Okay, AYA means awareness, intention, action. So what you want to do is, once you've cut the fear circuit with the breath, you want to do awareness, what's going on right now. Because remember, the mind is great at visualizing the worst scenario and making you think it happens. So by coming into the moment, you cut that. Intention is, who do I want to be, right? Ask yourself that question and then take an action based on who you want to be, and you'll become that person. Okay? Perfect.
Joey,
any other questions here?
I have a question. As we are living a very interesting moment, how do you actually apply and do not forget about some of these concepts that we've learned today with you as we get back into our office, in our Zoom calls, in our meetings? And what is a good way to kind of connect and really think about this and make that change? And I think you touched upon throughout the presentation, but what is a good advice there?
Yeah, so I'll give you a couple of things that I personally do, right? I'm a visual person. So what I like to do is, for example, if I was to show you my daily routine, the first thing that I do are called vision boards. And if you want, I can give you the name of the app I use. I'll write it here, Subliminal Vision Boards. Okay. And what I do is actually, I wake up every morning, and this vision board app, what it does is it converts my iPhone into like if it was a PowerPoint screen. And I've got images, photos, phrases, even music, right? That are making me focus on.
I took it off.
Hello?
I took it off. So
Okay, perfect. Okay, great. So, so I have actually where I want to go, things I want to accomplish, phrases that are important to me. So the reason I mention is the first thing I do out of the gate every single morning, and that vision board also has a lot of gratitude built into it. It's got pictures of my kids and all this kind of stuff. So the first thing I do in the morning, right out of the gate, the first thing I do is I put myself in a state of gratitude and, wow, I'm so lucky. And I look at all these opportunities I have. So right out of the gate, first thing I do is I put myself in that mindset. Then throughout the day, I've got a bunch of little things like the screensaver of my computer, my watch face, right? Like when I look at my watch face, it's got a picture that reminds me. So I like to put a lot of different things. Sometimes people would put stuff on their mirror, like a Post-it note, or on their computer, whatever works for you. But the beautiful thing is that as you do it more and more, you start to create those neural connections. And then over time, you don't have to do it. Like, I don't have to look at my watch anymore, right? It's become the new default path. So what happens is in your brain, there's a path that it's kind of like if you were walking in the forest and you built a path, right? To get from point A to point B. And what you start doing is you start creating this other path, because I don't want to go here. I want to go here. So the first time you use it, the path isn't really worn. But after you do it 60, 90, 120, 150 days, that path becomes now a good path. And then you just start automatically going there. So that's how it works over time. Repetition is the mother of skill. So you just want to keep repeating these things over and over and over until they become the new path.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah.
We have another question there, Joey, and I'll let you, if you can read it directly.
Okay. Okay, is this, how do you find the balance between keeping yourself informed, which is proven valuable, and not feeding the fear circuit? That's an awesome question. So you are dealing with a part of the human brain that is, what is it called again? It's FOMO, right? So FOMO is the fear of missing out. You are hardwired to not want to miss out, because a million years ago, missing out means you could die, right? So, you know, information didn't get to you and you could get killed. So that's like baked into your cake, right? So FOMO, the fear of missing out, and that desire to have to know all this information, is what keeps you coming back for more, okay? And that kept you alive a million years ago. Now it's not helping you. So I heard a great interview by a guy, and he says he practices JOMO. And JOMO is the joy of missing out. And what he says is, think about it. Like, really, how many pieces of news, if you don't get them right now, you will die? I mean, it'd have to be like an earthquake, a tidal wave. Every other piece of news, if you get it a little bit later in the day, really nothing's going to happen. So what I actually do, my personal self, is I only look at the news once a day. I look at the news in Panama at the end of the day. The government comes out and they put out statistics. That's when I look at the news. I do not look at the news any other time during the day. Because what's the difference between me looking at the news at 10 o'clock in the morning, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, 3 o'clock in the afternoon? It's not going to make a difference unless, it's true, a tidal wave comes and kills everybody. Then I needed to know at 10 o'clock in the morning. But if not, if I get the news at 6 o'clock, then it's not a big deal. So I look at that one time. Okay. So a lot of people are addicted to these news things because that part of your brain has to do it, but it's hurting you more than it helps you. And once you understand that, and you can take that in and then say, I'm only going to look at the news. You know, if you're looking at the news 10 times a day, look at it 5, and then look at it 3, and then look at it 1. You don't have to go from 10 to 1, but it's not helping you. So that's the way I manage it. I practice JOMO, not FOMO.
Excellent. Excellent. Joey, we are past our time, but there's just one thing that someone made a comment, and I'll probably finish with that question. It says, someone's recommending a book called A Beautiful Constraint. It talks probably about the concept. Any other books, any other material, any other thing that you would recommend group?
Yeah, there's a couple of books. The first one is a book called The Obstacle is the Way by a guy named Ryan Holiday. The Obstacle is the Way. It's like, you know, perfect for this situation. Another book, when you listen to Tim Ferriss and he interviews all these top performers, and he always says, what's the book that you've most gifted or impacted you? Another one is Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. That's another book that is really, really good in this time. So I would say The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday, or Man's Search for Meaning. And also listen to these top performers on podcasts. If you listen to Tony Robbins, Tim Ferriss, there's also a guy named Lewis Howes. He's got a thing called School of Greatness. And you listen to these top performers. That's probably been one of the most beneficial things to me, is to hear these top performers and how they think and the struggles they've had. And what you realize is we tend to put these people on a pedestal. They're regular people like you and I. The difference is they've got a different mindset. So I always say, you know, success leaves clues, right? So if you can see what they're doing and understand their mindset and start to model them, you know, you can start to change your world. So I would also say, listen to those podcasts as well.
Excellent. Excellent. Joey, thank you so much for sharing those concepts, those thoughts, and I think it serves us well in these times and any time. Thank you again, and hopefully we can have you soon with that path to profitability, which I believe is what you mentioned at the end, right?
Yeah, that's the one that we have about how to manage the situation to ensure profitability, even in COVID-19, and the mindset you have to prosper going forward.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us, and thank you, Joey, again.
Have a great day, guys.
Stay safe, everyone.